Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Fitness Devil podcast. If you're a first-time listener, the voice you're hearing right now, this is Andrew Coates, and I'll get Dean to say hi.
Hey, guys.
Cool. So this is episode number 28, and we have Jordan Syatt on today. So Jordan, most of our guests we tend to have about an hour with. Jordan, today we had half an hour. So what we did is we skipped a lot of the intro stuff until here, so we could do this without having to tie up the time, which we used to ask him a bunch of cool questions.
And if you're one of Jordan's fans, just skip right to this stuff. We actually got him to open up about some cool stuff, but we'll talk about his background for our listeners who are not, who haven't heard of Jordan Syatt, and then you guys can kind of skip forward.
So just a quick origin story. He actually started at a pretty young age at Westside Barbell, Louis Simmons gym. So it's a powerlifting gym. And so Jordan is a very accomplished powerlifter. I think he's 4 times bodyweight deadlift at one point. So he owns a bunch of records. He went on to intern at Cressy Sports Performance, which is a famous gym in Massachusetts. He's a very successful online coach. He also has a coaching business, mentorship business that he coaches people like our former guests, Carter Good and Chad Hargrove, amongst many others. And he also now has a company, Unicorn Magic Coffee. You can find that on Instagram under that name. And he's been working on building that. So that's a little bit new. In addition to that, possibly most notably, he's also Gary Vaynerchuk's personal trainer and flies between New York and LA multiple times a week with Gary. So that way he coaches him. So that's his currently is only in-person client, and he's on a 3-year contract.
And it sounds like, he's Gary V's trainer, but he actually has
he was famous way before that.
He's famous way before that. His Instagram fucking blew up through the roof. So I think he's pushing 350, 400,000, but he kind of jumped into the infographic game. He's tons of free content. Another thing he does is he shows up in a lot of podcasts, and he has his own, I think it's the online fitness business. I don't know, a bunch of them. Anyways, long story short is this guy puts out a lot of content. He helps a lot of people. And I think we wanted to make this not about that background because we had him for half an hour. So we just hammered home some questions. And what you'll hear in this podcast is kind of something a little bit different than what he normally does. We kind of pull out a bit of new information. So some of his new projects that I don't think he's ever talked about. And then we talked about Karen. So he's kind of, you gotta get into that.
You gotta hang around to find out who cares.
Basically, we try to get a bunch of some actionable stuff from him. We also try to get some colorful things from him. So you will hear a little bit of, I think all 3 of us got fired up at some point. It was fun. So I think what you need to do is you need to listen to this. And if you enjoy it, and if you're one of Jordan's followers, you know what? Give us a good review. I think that we can benefit from a 5-star review, or just lay down, write some things like, hey, these guys are fucking awesome. That would be great. But you know what? Go look at some of our past podcasts. We have...
Well, we are very proud of the library of amazing guests we've had. So we can start with Dean Somerset. He's appeared twice. He's a good friend of ours here locally in Edmonton. We've had Sohee Lee, Carter Good, as we said. We've had Dr. Mike Israetel, Mark Fisher, Kelly Coffey. The list goes on and on. We just had Lee Peel on. It's a fantastic episode. Megan Calloway. Just scroll down through what we've got. You're going to be blown away with who we have. And then in a couple of weeks, we're going to release an episode with Dr. Spencer Nadolski as well. And we're working on some pretty big stuff for the future. We are, as Dean basically said, we're trying to do something very different with this podcast. Not the same cliche questions, not the same cliche origin stories that you've heard 400 or 500 times, exaggeration, with guests like Jordan, who does a lot of podcasts. It's about drawing out something a little different, something a bit more engaging, and getting them to swear a little bit because that's fun.
Well, and long story short is we have jobs in the fitness industry. We do this for fucking fun, and we want to interact with these people. So sometimes we just ask shit we want to hear.
Yeah.
Because we get the opportunity to talk to some of these people, and you know what? We get a free hour of their time, in Jordan's case, 30 minutes. So I hope that you guys enjoy this. Again, if you do enjoy it, share it with someone you know, and you know what? Leave us a good review. And with that, I guess we'll give you Jordan Syatt. Cue the intro music.
Shut up and sit down.
Do we have them?
Is Jordan there?
What's up, guys?
How's it going? We're gonna do one of your tricks, and since we're short on time, we're just gonna go in hot. So we're recording, so don't say anything too crazy yet.
Oh, wait, can I cuss? Is there
You
cussing
absolutely
allowed or
you should
We
cuss
we
if you
prefer it.
prefer it because
So,
then
for
you're usually a smiley guy. So
for everybody, and so that way you know this. The voice you're hearing here, this is Andrew Coates, guys, and then I know you've been chatting with Dean Guido on IG or something like that. So, Jordan, I've actually been following you for quite a while, listening to a ton of your podcast stuff, and this is actually a real treat. So, we really appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, well, thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it. I have no idea what we're going to talk about, but let's crush it.
I feel like you're used to just
questions.
crushing it based on your podcast. So I was like, fuck it, we could just roll right into this because like
Let's because we're starting a little later than planned. Just curious how much time you have.
Yeah, I got about 30 minutes.
Sounds great. Okay. So let's actually jump right in. We're going to record like your kind of history in an intro that we'll do separately. So we're going to skip over all that stuff. You tell it lots and it can be found everywhere online. So one of the things that I've noticed is you've really broken into the mainstream in a way few of the other people in what I call the reputable fitness industry have. What do you intend to do with this broad reach to positively affect the world?
What do you mean? Like, what do I intend to do with it? Like what's my intention?
How are you going to change the world positively with the fame, for lack of a better word, that you've already achieved?
outside of coffee,
Yes.
Outside of cops.
which is great.
Well, I definitely wouldn't say that I'm famous by any means. I think really my intent is to help people realize and see essentially a number of things. Number one, I will never underestimate the power of a smile. I think if at the very least I can make someone laugh and smile like at one part of their day, then I think that's infectious. So like I will never, for me, it's always been like improving one moment in one person's life, period, is a blessing in and of itself. So if all I do is make one person laugh, great. Like one time, amazing. Otherwise, I think a major goal of mine is to give people the confidence to trust in themselves and give people the confidence to believe in themselves. I think a lot of people, they live in their own like made up world of self-limiting beliefs. And I want to, if I can, help people realize that they can really do anything they want as long as they first and foremost believe it. And that's not hippy dippy bullshit. Like there's actually research supported on self-efficacy, but like I truly believe the number one most important factor in succeeding in anything is first and foremost your belief in yourself. And if I can help someone do that, I think that's probably my main goal.
Funny enough too, like great message, but we were recording a podcast before this and we called you like the king of like smiles. Essentially like you've refined it so much that no one can really talk shit about you because like you got the baby face, you got the smile down, like no one's gonna say a bad thing.
Well, there are definitely people who talk shit. So either way, like there's definitely going to be people who talk shit. But if I can, my goal is for the people who talk shit, I just want to make them smile too. And then they can't talk shit. So it's just, it works either way.
It just doesn't coincide with Westside. Like, I'm like, this motherfucker's on Westside? No,
it was training at Westside was so funny because like, it was just such a strange position to be in. It was like, I wish like there was a movie like recording the whole time because it was me, like this 127 pound kid who was like happy go lucky, and then like 330 pound guys who like were like definitely the one that's on the scarier side of the world.
Absolutely. The one thing I wanted to touch on, Karen, just because it's recent and like I don't know why the fuck I think it's so funny. Like I don't know, whatever it was like resonates. I'm like, this is fucking funny. Jordan writes funny posts or stories about this, I don't even know if it's fictitious, woman named Karen who perpetuates the nutritional advice, training nonsense. She seems like a big bitch. Sorry. How do you feel we should all deal with Karens? Is Karen real? And how do we deal with the Karens of the world? Well-intentioned, but spread misinformation is what I think you're going for.
Yeah, so I have no Karen in my life that I have any vendetta against or any like anger towards. It's mostly a lot of people don't know this. I used to do stand-up comedy, and I'm trying to get back into it more. And it's funny. One of the things about stand-up is sort of finding ways to phrase something that like you could say the same thing 20 different ways, but one way is going to be funnier because of a name or because of a tone that you use. And for some reason, Karen is a really funny fucking name.
Yeah.
Especially like when it's someone that's just annoying. And it's interesting because I've had a lot of Karens message me, be like, why the fuck, like, stop doing this. Like, my name's Karen. I'm not like that. And then I'll just be like, oh, Karen, you stop it. And then
You would say that, Karen.
My mom's name is Karen, and she listens to these. So, yeah, for real.
Karen.
But here's the best part. My dad's name is Conan. Like, I'm not
What?
kidding you guys. My dad's name is Conan. Yeah.
that's incredible.
That is good.
That's
So,
amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, back to Karen.
But I mean, basically, it just comes down to there are always going to be people in your life who are like saying you're doing something wrong, or like saying like, oh, like either trying to discourage you from chasing a goal or trying to convince you that what you're doing is wrong. There's always going to be those people. And regardless of whether or not her name is Karen or his name is Kevin or Kyle or Todd or whatever, all of those are funny names, by the way. Then like you just have to learn how to say fuck you, Karen, fuck you, Todd, and like keep on going.
Mine and my buddies was like, fuck you, Logan. Like, I don't know. Again, it's just a stupid name. Let's touch on this a little bit.
Logan's a good one. I like that.
Logan, like, don't be a Logan. And then everyone knows, like, you say it like that and they're like, I know what a Logan would be. Like, you're a Logan, you idiot. Stand up. I've never actually like heard that. Like, how did you get into stand up, and were you good at it? Like, I would assume you're good based on Instagram, but like, how did that go?
So it went fantastic. It all started from a bet, basically. So I was living in Israel, and when I was 18, I lived in Israel for several years, but 18 and 19 was one of the years I was there, and I thought I was hilarious, and people were like, you should do stand up, and I was like, no, and they're like, you should. And then this one girl that I had a crush on was like, no, you should do stand up. I was like, okay, if you say so. And so so then I did it for the first time in Jerusalem, and it was a hit. People loved it, and then I like fell in love with it, and I didn't like make a career out of it. I did it like a handful of times, and when I went to college, I did it a handful of times, and always like I didn't do it enough to fail. Like I didn't do it enough to have a bad show. But like I want to do it enough to have a bad show. Like I want to do it enough to where like I learn more and I get better and I push myself outside my comfort zone. So I'm based in New York City right now. So I'm hoping to I've been collecting some material, and hopefully I'll do some in the next like probably 6 to 8 weeks.
How cliche is this? A Jewish comedian in New York? Like, is Seinfeld your idol growing up, or what?
I have some big shoes to fill, and that's actually last night. I'm in Vegas right now, and just on a quick trip. And a friend of mine from middle school and high school, haven't seen in years and years and years, also Jewish, also really funny. We went out to dinner, and we spent probably about a quarter of the dinner talking about Larry David. So I mean, it's just very cliche.
That's nuts. Is it going to be fitness related? Like your material? Like, I guess I don't want to ruin anything. Fuck.
And no, actually, as of right now, all the material I have is completely non-fitness related. I think I spend so much time thinking about fitness that like, when I have a moment to not think about it, I definitely take advantage of it. But I have material on like going to the movies, and I have material on like when you're on an air, because I'm on airplanes constantly. So on airplanes, so yeah. I'm excited. I just need to refine it.
That's interesting. Cool.
Well, this kind of goes to the next thing I was going to ask you about, and it could easily be said you've had a ton of good luck in your career. I mean, you coach Gary Vaynerchuk, for fuck's sakes, but we both know that luck rarely just happens, and that we create our luck with our actions and attitudes. What actions and attitudes would you attribute your luck / success to?
Well, I would say I'm very lucky. I would absolutely say that, from the perspective of I was born into a family that could like provide for me, and I'm lucky in that in terms of I was never shy around people. I was never like, I think there's a lot of luck that I do have. So I'm very blessed. That said, I think I know for a fact the only reason I got the job of coaching Gary Vaynerchuk is because I started writing articles back in 2011, bare minimum of 1 a week, every week. I was posting a bare minimum of 3 Facebook posts a day, every day, bare minimum of 3 Twitter posts a day, every day, bare minimum of 1 YouTube video a week, every week. I did that for over 6 years. And the only reason I got that job is because Gary's old coach followed my work. Yeah. And so like, and not only that, but before he was even a personal trainer, he was living in Minnesota, and he commented on several of my articles back in 2011 and in 2012 actually, and I answered them all. And like, I always answered every comment, every question. And I didn't know who he was, but because I built that relationship with him through the internet, and then he eventually became Gary's coach, that's how I was recommended for the job. So it's one of those things where it's like, the more action you take, the more things you do, the more opportunities are presented that you would never really imagine are even possible. And that's everything that's ever happened to me has only happened because of an action that I took. And like, it's usually like, I just started a fucking coffee business. I never in my life would have thought I was going to start a coffee business, but because of this, like me posting 3 times a day, every day on social media, like it was one of the things that was presented.
Was that even like, I love talking about coffee. Was that even like in the plans, or was it just like, you know what, I like coffee so much, I talk about it fucking constantly, like this could work?
No, what happened was, so I've spoken about coffee. I mean, if you go back to my first articles in 2011, like I've always spoken about coffee for no other reason than I've always liked it. Like it's just been part of what I do. And it so happened that as I grew an audience and as it got bigger and had more people looking at me and I kept talking about it, there was one guy who reached out to me who he was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing this?" And I was like, "Yeah, but not seriously. Like, I don't have the knowledge. I don't have the manpower. I don't have all this stuff." And he turned into the guy who like really, he has all the knowledge of it. Like he has several coffee companies, and it's because of that relationship that this has been able to push forward so successfully. So I wouldn't say so successfully. Like we've only done one launch and that went really well, but I mean, so far it's been great.
The perks do you actually drink? This is a question. Do you actually drink your own coffee all the time? Is that horrible to ask? Probably not.
I mean, I drink my coffee for sure. I love it. It's actually really good. The issue is I'm based in New York City, but in the last 4 weeks I've had 23 flights. So
Jesus.
like I'm very rarely in New York City. So I mean, and it's like if I could just carry it around with me and make my own coffee all the time, sure, but like it's not realistic. So anytime I'm in my apartment, yes, absolutely, but I'm not really in my apartment as much as I'd like.
You could send packages of it ahead for you, right? You at least keep some in LA, because I know you spend a fair bit of time in LA if you care that much. You
got to think outside the box, Jordan. Come on.
I'm looking forward to trying it. I'm going to try to get in on maybe the next round. We'll see if that works, because I like coffee too, but Dean loves it.
We can ship you some too. We can ship you some. You guys darker roast or lighter roast guys?
Lighter.
Lighter's good. Yeah.
More caffeine.
Got it. You guys will probably really like my there is more caffeine. You'll probably really like so I have like 2 lighter roasts. I have my classic blend, and then I have my pre-workout blend, and the unicorn crack pre-workout blend. It seems to be the fan favorite so far. So we can send some of that your way.
That sounds good. I use black coffee as my pre-workout.
Really?
That's something I switched to a while ago. Yes.
Yeah, me too. That's my pre-workout. It's literally just black coffee.
Yeah, I'm trying to get people off of a lot of these pre-workouts that have a lot of bullshit that doesn't work in them.
Yeah, but they taste good. If it's blue raspberry, like I love coffee too, but it's like blue raspberry, anything, I'm good. Like I know it's not. It's just like what I don't know. I don't know how old you're, but it's just like
Jordan's younger than us.
He's younger. I'm 30. Right. Anyways, long story short, No Explode is out. It's like that's what you did as like a 16-year-old kid, and I haven't changed it really. A creature of habit, but like it works mentally.
Super dump.
Yeah, whatever. Let's switch it over a bit. I think something that we would love.
Oh, is that a Gaspari nutrition thing? Super dump. Super pump.
Super dump.
Oh yeah. Super
bump was the natural progression after No
that.
Explode, but I always go back to No Explode or whatever's on hand at the gym. Yeah. So
like Super Pub, you needed to take a pre-game dump as soon as you drank it before your workout.
Seriously, that is no joke.
That's true.
I haven't thought about that in so long. Holy shit.
So it's basically coffee.
I don't think you can get that stuff anymore. I haven't seen Gaspari products in forever.
Wow. We're not seeking it out either. I don't think at this point we're the audience.
Yeah, fuck it. No.
Since we have you here again, you probably get to ask this a lot, but we want to give something to our enthusiasts, our fitness listeners. Can you give us something from your experience that you kind of hold dear to you? So something that's often overlooked in terms of principle, but that you heavily favor. That's kind of against what
in terms of.
Just anything fitness related, like
or
nutrition, something that you hold dear as a principle that like isn't necessarily held true to most people.
Well, add to this because I've listened to you say about in your articles, you want to give something actionable every time you write something. So we want people to listen to this podcast and hear you give something actionable that they can take away today.
Okay, awesome. So what I would say probably the most, I'll say two things if I can. Number one, I'm going to sort of reiterate an Instagram post I made yesterday that got a tremendous response. Basically, I made an Instagram post saying that for one person, progress might be not eating the pizza so that they can stay on track and hit their calories and keep moving forward to lose fat. For someone else, progress for them might be actually eating the pizza without food anxiety, without feeling guilty, without feeling like they screwed up. And it essentially highlights the fact that you can have two different people and do like the complete opposite action, and both of those people will benefit from it just based on where they are in their life, what they need, where like their fears, their insecurities are, where their progress is. And progress doesn't only solely lie in physical numbers and data. A lot of times progress lies in your mindset, your emotions, how you handle things, and being able to understand that. Like, I think too many people focus on, well, did my weight go down on the scale? Or like, did my bench press go up today? And they don't focus on, number one, the larger picture of like, well, what's happened over 6 months? And number two, understanding that like improving how you think about yourself and how you think about your nutrition and how you incorporate it into your life rather than trying to squeeze your life into fitness. If getting better at that is progress in and of itself.
Good. Yeah.
It's basically everything is context. It depends is a common answer. We've talked with Dean Somerset's a good example. He calls you a good friend, where there's very rarely a hard and fast answer that applies in all situations. Usually there's a much more nuanced discussion of it. It's funny, I was actually at a party with him several months ago, and I'd mentioned how you were one of the guests we were hoping to get. And he's like, oh, I can get you, Jordan. But I end up reaching out on my own anyway. So, and then Carter Good, who we also had on, him and Chad Hargrove have both mentioned how they've done business coaching with you.
Yeah. Well, they're all great guys. Dean, Carter, Chad. Yeah, they're amazing. They're like very smart, very intelligent, and they all have big hearts. They care very much. They all have really good intent. So that's to be named from each of them. It's amazing. Thank you.
And they're on the infographic game. It's like the infographic crew.
We're not getting into infographics.
Why not? Who started it? What's the truth on who got big on infographics first? I want to know that.
Do you want the truth on this one?
Yes.
I know the truth, but I want you to say the truth. I think I know the truth.
Here's what happened. Did you ask anyone else this?
Yes.
Yes. Carter
extensively.
I know Chad's not the starter, but I asked Carter.
Got it. All right. So here's what happened. So what happened was Carter. So I was coaching Carter in business, and basically, we got on the phone and I was like, listen, man, I want you to do 30 days every day posting on Instagram. Like every day you're gonna make another post. And we decided on him doing food comparisons, calorie comparisons. And I did not expect them to look so fucking good. He found a website called canva.com. And he made these food comparisons, and they were amazing. They were so well done, so professional. And so he did the first infographics of food comparisons. And then after I saw how amazing they looked, I was like, dude, where the hell, like, are you making these? Are you doing this? And he told me Canva. And then I went on and I started making my own, which were, I never did a calorie comparison. They were more along the lines of like, I was the first one to do like the brown rice versus white rice, sweet potato versus white potato, different training principles. So Carter was the first one doing infographics, and they were all calorie comparison based. And then I jumped in and I started doing the other type of stuff. Then it sort of just diversified.
That's the story we got. It's just hilarious. That was off air with him, and I was like, man, like Jordan's got the infographic game. He probably got you on that. He's like, I think like he did mine, and you could look back on his. His went from like 100 likes to like 1,000 in like a matter of like a month. Well, and then he's like, you should do infographics. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna fucking do infographics of Spider-Man.
Pretty soon now we'll have had all what I consider the 4 kings and a queen of nutrition infographics, because we had Sohee Lee on, who, like you, was an intern at Cressy Sports Performance, amongst many other hats you've worn. Carter Good, obviously, and then we'll release Spencer Nadolsky. We'll record him next week, but we'll release him about 2 weeks after your episode. So, and I consider you guys to be the kind of the big four who really been pushing this stuff with great content.
We just follow the
it is.
Follow the Instagram infographics, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
The thing is, a lot of people hate on the infographics, and the funny thing is, number one, the people who hate on them, they suck at making them. And it's funny because people they think it's like, oh, like this is stupid, whatever. Well, first of all, try fucking making an infographic that explains a really high level concept so simple enough a 6-year-old can understand it. And number two is try doing that literally every day, multiple times a day, 7 days a week for months on end. And then if you can do that and you still think they're stupid, then you actually didn't do it. But like, I mean, then respect. Like, but the reality is creating these like mini picture books explaining very high level concepts that before no one would understand and reaching hundreds of thousands to millions of people now. Some of my posts have like a reach of well over like millions. So it's like, I mean, these concepts that were once solely based and it revolved around the science-based world are now reaching mainstream, and like that's fucking incredible.
Well, and that's where, like I said, I got brought up to Carter, and that's where I saw the value in it. And when I started doing it, it was just one of those things where, like, it's way harder than it looks, and it takes time, but, like, it doesn't dumb it down, but it makes it digestible. Because, again, we're trying to put good concepts in front of people, and that's easier said than done. And I think that a lot of the smart people, they're missing the boat on that. And then people like you just get to clean up because now you're giving that information to people, and they're making changes, which is great. And I think that's where I see that being the most effective.
Yeah, for sure. Not to mention a lot of these people who are like, oh, you're dumbing it down, like blah, blah, blah. It's like, you have to realize if they were interested in learning the science, if they wanted to learn about gluconeogenesis and the Krebs cycle and muscle proteins, if they wanted to learn about that, they would have went to fucking school for it. Yeah. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous to think that like they should be looking into PubMed. That's the same thing as saying, like, if you, like, why would you go to a lawyer? Like, you should just fucking go to, like, do your own research and figure out what laws to do and how to make your own argument. You go to someone else who's a fucking expert who can dumb it down for you. And, like, the lawyer doesn't say, well, actually, let me explain, like, how this law was created and the reasons why all the 27 different cases that prove this is what's going to happen. No, they say, hey, trust me, don't fucking talk to the other person and do what I say. Yeah. And, like, that's it. Because, like, you just want to listen to the expert.
Absolutely. We got like 10 minutes, so I'm going to keep going. Any bets you're placing on future trends, like within fitness, nutrition? We can throw the internet out there, but like, what's kind of your outlook on like what's going to be big next?
I think there's going to be virtual reality is going to be a really, really, really big thing coming up in the next probably 7 to 10 years or less realistically, but virtual reality is going to be big, and it's going to be very interesting to see how that impacts brick and mortar as well as online. But I mean, we can already see little remnants of it. Like, it's interesting how the Peloton has been working. I'm sure you've seen that, how like they have the Peloton bike and you can join live classes from your home or from wherever. And I think, what's going to end up happening is there's going to be very, very interactive, coaching in a virtual reality world. And I think that's probably going to be something that a lot of people right now don't even fathom, and it's going to come very quickly. Same with Alexa skills. Having an Alexa skill is going to be really important too.
I actually picture, like, and not jokingly, like that Star Wars little like blue hologram person and us as the trainers in someone's living room coaching them. I can actually see shit like that.
That'd be sick.
Oh, I agree with you. I think that's absolutely going to happen. I think that like you're going to be able to work out with your friends from your own home while they're all in their homes, and you're going to have one coach who could have anywhere, like they could have as many people as they want. You could just like do it, like maybe you could organize a class so like you're just with your friends and whatever, or like you could join a class with one coach, but that coach has allowed like they could have thousands of people in it, and they're just like in their own living room showing people. It's like, it's crazy, and it's going to happen, and it's going to blow people's fucking minds.
Someone's going to do it, and someone's going to crush it.
Yeah.
Yep.
They need a lot of money. Like, we need to get a lot more money to make that. I want to be in the forefront of that. Okay. It's going to be like Elon Musk. For sure. Like, after Mars is done, he's like, hey, let's just like do the Star Wars thing. Someone needs to send him a video like, we need this in training. Just figure it out, man.
Cool.
Okay, Andrew's gonna ask you a question. I better get the answer. I want the answer I want, and he's gonna give it to me. I think.
We ask every guest what's a book that they've read that they feel has had an impact on their life. So do you have something to share with us?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I'm assuming you want me to say the Harry Potter series.
Well, you know what? No, I want you to say whatever you want to say.
Yeah, you say whatever you want to say.
And then I'll be either disappointed or
wow,
happy
that
with
sounds like we're in a relationship and you're being very passive aggressive about it.
a little bit.
No
one gives me a good book.
I don't care. I don't care where we eat. I want you to pick where you like to eat.
Exactly. It's absolutely what I'm saying.
Let me see. I mean, it's funny. I think that obviously the Harry Potter entire series has had a major impact on me in a variety of ways. But trying to think of another book that really, you know what I'm going to tell you? I'm going to tell you another book that's actually had a really big impact on me, because I think Harry Potter is a little bit of a cop-out answer.
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest books that has a major impact on me, it's called Made to Stick. Have you heard of that?
I have it on my bookshelf. Chip and Dan Heath's work is fantastic.
That book is, I think it's very underrated, and I know a lot of people have read it. I've suggested a lot of people have read it, and people have come back to me after reading it and being like, honestly, I didn't really like it that much. And to me, that either means they didn't really read it, or they weren't in a place where they were ready to practically apply it, and or they didn't push themselves. And that book, the way that it allowed me to transform, and by the way, like, I'm not like a big book guy from like a learning. I tend to just do it myself, and I just like reading for pleasure. But that book specifically was tremendous in opening my mind to understanding. That book was essentially like the impetus for infographics, teaching like how to break out of the expert mindset, how to break out of like the curse of knowledge, and be able to break things down for people, not only in a way that they can understand it, but also in a way that they will always remember it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Like, that is what we wanted. Yeah, fuck the Harry Potter.
Well, I wanted someone. It's not that the cop out. It's just like everyone says, like, "Oh, I read this great business book," which is great because again, that helps her. I just wanted someone to say Harry Potter, like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones. I read business books. I just wanted it. But Jordan, we know Jordan likes Harry Potter, so fuck it.
I thought you were gonna like say one of Vaynerchuk's books.
That would have been a cop out.
I mean, those are great. I think my favorite one of his is the Thank You Economy, and I think most people really don't understand. It was one. I think that might have been his first book. Most people haven't actually read it just because they pick up like on the newer stuff. If you haven't read the Thank You Economy, I think it's probably his best.
Would he get mad at you if you didn't read his new book? Like,
I actually haven't read it yet, and I don't think he'd care, to be honest. But I should read it, to be honest. But I haven't read it yet.
A lot of people reading his stuff. It's got to be pretty interesting working with him. I didn't want to make this podcast too much about Gary because...
Well, he made it about Gary because he's like, I'm going to be 50 minutes late. I'm working out with Gary. I'm like, yeah, just bring Gary on the podcast. That'd be great. Thanks, man.
What we're going to do is we're going to actually, when you run out of time, we're going to record the intro and we're actually going to go through your history, stuff like Westside and Cresty Sports Performance, and just mention a bunch of the other stuff that you do, skipping the, we didn't get into the origin story today because those get cliche. And guess what? You've done a ton of podcasts where you can find that. So this stuff has been really super. So Dean, go.
I was just going to say, lastly, just to kind of close it out, and you have to give this spiel all the time, but where can they find you, and kind of what's the best way to kind of consume all things Jordan Syatt? Assuming that they don't know who you are already.
So I would say, so Instagram, obviously, Syatt Fitness, SYATT Fitness, and then also, like, really YouTube, I think, is where a lot of my best content is in a longer form. And it's funny, it's like a lot of my videos are between like 8 to 15 minutes. And when people first see that, they're like, oh, no, I'm not going to watch it. But as soon as someone watches 30 seconds, they watch all of my fucking videos, and like big perspective shifts. So especially if you're struggling with motivation or mindset habits, whatever, I think that my YouTube would probably be a really good fit. And that's just Jordan Syatt.
Cool, man. I think we'll respect your time and we'll kind of wrap this thing up. But like, we really appreciate having you on here. I think that I'm actually glad we touched on something I haven't heard about, stand-up comedy. So look at Jordan for stand-up comedy one day. Coffee company.
I'll record it and I'll put that up on Instagram when I eventually do it. Hopefully in the next like month or two. I'd really like to.
Just make it about Karen, man. Karen's the funniest shit. Again, I don't know whatever. You obviously had a big outpour from it, but like that's funny as shit.
People have their character too. Like you,
but everyone has their character, and they're like,
you probably know Mark Fisher. He's a friend, and he's done our podcast, and he's got Mrs. Rossini, which is always really funny.
Everyone has their Karen.
Yeah, I love Mark. He's hilarious. I love him.
Well, Jordan, we really appreciate your time, guys. I can't stress this enough. Jordan's actually one of the people that, like a few others that I've mentioned in past podcasts, who I've followed very closely. I've learned a lot from. Your podcast appearances are great. The Business of Lifting Weights one, if you remember those guys out in San Diego, that's actually one of the best podcast episodes I've ever heard. It was really good. So hopefully after people listen to this, maybe they'll go find more of your work there. And guys, just follow him. He puts out incredibly good stuff. The positivity is infectious. It's someone you should be following. Jordan, thanks so much for your time, my friend. I appreciate it.
Thank you, guys. I really appreciate it. If there's ever anything I can do, please don't hesitate to ask. And I know this was short, so if we can come on again, I'd love to.
We would love to have you back.
Yep, that's our goal. Take it easy, man.
Shut up and sit down.